You want one too? What are you doing here? What's that? 8. That one, well, technically that one's 7, but I did a deal the same day with a private one to make it 8, so. Okay, it's pretty close to 7 o'clock and I feel like we're running out of room for people in here, so nobody else is getting in, even if they want to. Okay, sorry, honey, get focused, organized. Here we go. Agenda. So we get the agenda in front of us. Is there any additions or deletions? As I see none, I would ask for a motion. Councillor King.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We have a delegation tonight, so we'll start with that. Patty, the floor is yours. So the only thing I would ask is that we are live and there's literally millions of people across Canada are watching us as we speak.
I've been watching live. It's not a million.
It's not a million? Oh.
But I must say I enjoy watching the YouTube things though, actually. It's
okay. Well, this is kind of how it works in here. We're not really loving it, but we're trying to live in this new world that it is and see if we can invest in some equipment that makes it easier as we go along. But one thing that we do know is that it is very frustrating for people on the other side when you can't speak into the mic. So I would encourage you to do that as we move forward. But at this point, the floor is yours. So we do have some stuff in our package that you'd sent us already. But if you want to give us a close notes of that and then elaborate and go for any questions.
Yeah, so thank you very much for letting us come in and talk about what's happening at the Boreal Centre and some of the impacts for our community. I'm representing the Lesser Slave Lake Bird Observatory Society, and we have Rhonda Groom, who's our fundraising director, as well as Terry Christoph, our vice chair here as well. So I just wanted to update you on some of the background and some of the impacts. So I'll just quickly go through the briefing note that I provided you. So since 2006, the Lesser Slave Lake Bird Observatory and Alberta Parks have worked really closely on building an education, research, and tourism center for Lesser Slave Lake Provincial Park. And it's been a really innovative partnership where government, a nonprofit, and various stakeholders have all been working together in a really cost-effective, flexible, and efficient way to deliver programs and services. And it's been a great success. How it works behind the scenes, for those who aren't familiar, is we have a license and operating agreement with Alberta Parks, where we're provided annual funding, and in return we deliver services. So we do visitor information services, we deliver education and outreach programs, we coordinate research projects that are happening out at the research center. And we help seek new partners, funding to help support those programs. And as well, Alberta Parks supplies us with support in kind office space, and they also cover the operational costs for the center as a government facility. So it's a bit of a blob, but that's the legalities of how it all works. And they get really excellent. That operating agreement has really been core for the success of the program. Initially, it really gave the LSLBO that stability to have a full-time executive director and build programs. And it also provided stability for Alberta Parks when they had some periods where they had limited staff, but there was continuity in programs. So it's really been a win-win for both organizations. Since we've opened, we've had over 65,000 people through our door. We've delivered programs to over 100,000 participants. We've had collaborative research projects, our latest with Columbia University from New York. It's been an amazing success. Unfortunately, due to current budget cuts, we've been notified that they're going to be closing the Boreal Centre for the winter season. So it'll become a seasonal operation. It'll operate from April until September, closed October through March. Closed for the winter for public access. So that means programming and just visitation. And as well, our funding will be reduced from 70,000 to 35,000 in terms of what we do at the center. And that's because it's open half the time, so we get half the funding is essentially the rationale. LSL will still have office space, be able to use the center, have office space and all of that over the winter time. And so what we're really looking for is your support, and we appreciate the advocacy that you've done to date in terms of helping to convince Alberta Parks to keep that center open for the winter. The obvious impacts for our community are the education programs that happen. We had last winter alone, we delivered 96 programs to over 2,200 participants between our education programs and community programs. We do curriculum-based school programming. 50% of our school programs now are during the winter. That's our opportunity for growth out there. Teachers like the fact that there's a nice warm center. You can have 40 kids out there in a safe environment. There's bathrooms, educated staff. Like I say, it's super successful. Last winter alone, we had every CJ Scherter kid out except for the grade 3s for field trips. All the grade 5s from E.G. Wallstrom were there. We had St. Francis junior high kids out. It's huge for our local schools in terms of winter programming, and just getting kids outside in winter is a huge benefit.
But you guys also get schools from outside our region, don't you?
Yes, and that was the next one. So you may not realize, but for a lot of First Nations, Métis communities, we are their destination for field trips. So, our kids might go to Edmonton. These kids are coming to the Boreal Centre. They'll phone us and say, we want a full day field trip. What can you do? So last winter, we get a lot of kids from Wabasca, Sandy Lake. Last winter, we had Whitefish Atikamekw down. Gift Lake is quite common. So it's a real highlight field trip for these kids. Not all of them happen in winter, but it's important to understand that there's a really important role for our center for those communities there. We were originally thinking with COVID-19 that everything would be done for this winter particularly, but what we're discovering is there's a lot of families that are doing homeschooling, at-home learning, families that are just looking for a safe way to get outside. And so we're already getting calls from families that are looking for programs for this winter. Excuse me. We do a lot of community outreach programs, whether it's free family fun is what we talk about. So our Halloween program, our Christmas in the park, all of those type of programs, giving opportunities for families to come out. So it's really kids and families that are being impacted by these program losses during the winter. You may not see it so much here, but it will be impacting our research programs that we do. There's a real energy at the center right now, whether we've got the school programs and tourism and all this exciting research happening. That synergy builds new opportunities. And like I say, we've had projects with forest industry, with universities across Canada. We're actually nationally recognized for our Canada Warbler work that we do here. And a lot of that research collaboration and planning and reporting, it's a winter activity. The field research happens in the summer, but winter is when you're really building those programs. Obviously there's, it's a tourism center. The tourism marketing, that's a winter activity as well that we do. By the time May comes, those people have already made their plans. So our opportunities to help with some of the economic stuff, that's winter work for us. So that'll be impacted. The other thing that we're looking at is it's not just the 35,000 that's a hit for our society. there's going to be other impacts as well economically, less programming revenue, donations. We're not as, right now, we're a really solid grant application with all our partners and all the program, diversity of programs. As that shrinks to the center being, more of just a summer visitor center, it's, it's harder to get those, exciting grant projects pulled together. And I think recognizing that there's a lot of stakeholders that are involved. It's impacting not just the LSLBO, but a wide range of organizations that are all committed to these programs. So what I'm concerned about personally is we built a lot of momentum. Schools are coming to us every year, families are coming. And if we lose that momentum, it's going to be really hard to build it again. So I think I recapped it for you.
Okay. Patty, do you have any numbers on tracking tourists that are outside of your numbers of school visits?
We did a bit of a recap. This year is a little different. We're seeing a lot more from Calgary. Typically, probably 65% of our visitors come in the summer are from Edmonton.
Okay.
Even higher usually. This year we have more from Calgary and Southern Alberta because people are staying at home. In the summer, maybe 15% of our visitors are local. And when we see our local visitors, it's because they're bringing family to the center. They're showing it off. Everyone's very proud of the center. So in the summer, it's predominantly Edmontons, campers from the campground. That's who we're seeing in the summer.
Okay. So I'll start by saying thanks obviously for coming, Patty. And so I will say that behind the scenes, council is very concerned about this. And so we have been advocating to our MLA as well as to various ministers. And we've had the Speaker of the House here and just basically saying, that this is, in a community that is trying to build programs, that is trying to attract people, that are trying to build tourism and economic development, taking, the provincial park becomes a big part of the success or failure of us doing that, which we don't have a ton of control over. And the Boreal Center is basically a flagship within that park. And so to see them doing this is very frustrating. I actually felt like we were making headway with our Minister of Economic Development on the Friday when we met with her, and on Monday apparently she no longer has that job. So I am working behind the scenes though with their staff who is still passionate about carrying that message forward. I did reach out to our MLA and haven't been able to connect, and apparently he's on holidays till the end of September. So we're going to keep championing it, but I can tell you right now it is like pushing a rope up a hill for sure.
Yeah.
I will say, do you know the operational dollars that it takes to keep it going? Like part of it is the 35,000 that focuses on that program delivery grant, but how much is the actual operational dollars for the 6 months?
And that part is within Alberta Parks, so I don't have that. Originally, I think they estimated that would be around 80,000 is what they thought they might save by close, but that was like a full closure. Okay. Exactly what they're going to save, that would be with parks. So
$35,000 doesn't keep you open.
35,000 is essentially the cost savings by closing it for 6 months and amending the operating agreement. So that's the piece that I know. How much else they have for savings, I'm not sure. So.
Okay.
Sorry. For that 70,000, there's incredible, we leverage that funding a lot. We probably bring in 100 to 150,000 in extra staffing to support programs within that center. So, I mean, the economic return on that investment that they have at the center is high.
Councillor McGregor.
So then would that mean too, again, in the winter, then the snowshoes, the skis, all of that stuff would be unavailable as it is right now?
At the center. So yeah, there wouldn't be any stopping in and getting snowshoes and cross-country skis. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a huge sad loss. I mean, I hope we can do whatever we can to try to convince these people that this is not the right place to cut $35,000 from. There's lots of other places they can find. It'd be a huge loss. I mean, I haven't had little kids for a long time, but we've used that center for years with all the furs, and I mean, it's so well built. You can go snowshoeing, you can make tea and all of that kind of stuff out there. I mean, it's been so great for our region.
Well, and we have the advantage of we get to see that center through people's fresh eyes every day, especially in the summer. So it's really neat kind of seeing just how excited. I had someone come through the door yesterday that was all ready to write a letter because he thought that was the best place ever. And he was from Fort Saskatchewan. So, it's an incredible center, and both Alberta Parks and ourselves, we're very proud of all the work that's been done there.
So question, what happens to the staff and like, is the building physically closed up and no one's working there for 6 months?
Well, we'll still be, at the center doing, we'll still be looking at ways to take our programming to the schools, or, are there ways that we can kind of come up with some creative outdoor events, maybe not at the center, but somewhere, like we're still kind of thinking about that. And we're also busy, right now we're having to adapt a lot of our existing field trip programs to come up with how can we give them building resources for the teachers because we can't go into the schools. And so right now we're busy adapting of all of our programs, so.
Okay,
To answer your question, the building is open.
The building is
to
open,
staff,
yeah.
not to the public.
Not to the public.
right. So people are still going to work in the same building. We're
Yes.
just not going to open the door.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
really, the only thing you're saving is the 35,000.
So 35,000 could keep you open.
Yes.
Okay. So that's kind of the message we have been delivering
Yeah.
to the province. We are hoping to find a champion within the province that can help us drive that home. Hoping our MLA gets on board and can do some of that there. Those conversations haven't been fruitful as of yet, but I did talk with the staff of the Ministry of Economic Development and Tourism. Like I said, that minister was quite excited about the possibility. I've talked to their chief of staff and the staff that was there that day that really, is the boots on the ground, and said that they will continue to carry that torch forward, whether or not the minister changes or not. So Joanna and I have to team up here and get some more letters and send out, and I'll make some more calls because council totally feels it's a huge monumental loss. We're just trying, we're finding it difficult to find a conduit to get our message heard. So we'll keep championing and see where we can end up. And in our last discussion with the Economic Development and Tourism Minister, I say that like it's important, but they've already changed the name anyway. I just don't know what it is anymore. The MD has been part of that discussion as well. And so we are working in tandem with them, but it's silly. It's just silly business. So.
Well, and we're also, talking to all of our stakeholders and the schools and the teachers and letting them know what's going on. And I think it's really important that Alberta Parks and senior management understand the value of what we have here. And very realistically, in another 2 years, our 5-year agreement expires and we have to go through the business case of the next 5-year agreement. So just making sure that they understand the importance programs that are delivered here, that relationship and all the partners that we have here and can support this project in the long term.
Okay. Councillor King.
I echo the mayor and Councillor McGregor's comments. Losing it would be devastating. We have already lost our Parent Link program, which a lot of parents used, especially during the winter months. We don't have a lot of places for our kids to go during the winter months. And with a young family, we're at the Boreal quite often, snowshoeing, skiing. They love it in there. It would be a huge loss. My question is, do we need to make a formal motion to send a letter?
I think one might already be drafted.
But do we need a motion to do that or no?
We can, yeah. I would make a motion that we send one to the Minister of, I don't even know what it's called anymore.
Environment and Parks.
Leah looks like she knows. What is it? Okay.
Wouldn't we want to tag Jason Nixon in on as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Minister of Environment and Parks, as well as the Minister of the former Ministry of Economic Development and Tourism. Start with there.
How about the Minister of Education with all the
Yeah.
school projects
Sure.
that the guys have been providing for so many years for the school?
We'll send it to the Premier's office while we're at it. So, sure. So Councillor King makes that motion. Joanna's good. Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. And so we will keep fighting, and I'll let you know here in the next week or two where we end up, because I know that the deadline looms imminently.
It does. So thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you guys. You betcha. Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here too. You know, it is very frustrating too, because we met with Minister Nixon of Environment and Parks last fall, who talked about, you know, more investment needed in parks, and that Lesser Slave Lake was an area that could use some development. Obviously, you know, we take all that stuff with a grain of salt and haven't seen a big chunk of investment since then. But then to take the one piece of property that is actually generating people to come and cut that, and actually, by the sounds of it, just not really cut a lot, just lock the door. So really all we're losing is access for our residents and people that are trying to come is just ludicrous. Joanna, we should try and reach out and see if we can set up a call with Minister Nixon and see, and I'll share that with him directly. And we'll keep fighting and see where we end up. That's all we can do. So with that, we will jump from fighting to welcoming. And so introductions, we have Leah Jones is here tonight, our new Economic Development Officer, and I'll turn over, David, if you want to introduce her. We've got a bit of a formal write-up. I told her it was very informal and there wasn't gonna be anything, but it was a total trick and lie. I have a whole bunch of questions and stuff that I want to go over with her tonight.
Let me introduce Leah Jones,
Perfect.
our Economic Development Officer for the portion of the council members. And if you have any questions, the floor, please do so. If not, please come by our office and say hi at any time. She's getting into a lot of orientation and some of the educational materials and information is going on. So familiarize herself into our slave day, and she'll start meeting lots of institutional and informal stakeholders as well. So let me introduce Leah Jones.
Yeah, microphone. I always forget microphone. Don't overthink it, Leah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you, David, and your mayor and councillors. I'd like to say that I'm very excited to be joining the town of Slave Lake as your economic development officer. I have included a bio in the package, but just to highlight on some points, I did grow up in the Westlock Daplin area. And from there, I attended the University of Alberta, specializing in ag economics and rural community development. And there I started my professional career as well as my volunteer career, working for organizations such as the Government of Alberta, United Farmers of Alberta, AFSC, Calgary Stampede, and then most recently the 4-H Foundation of Alberta. My volunteer careers had me serving on some boards and committees that have been very community focused. So I sit on Action for Healthy Communities Alberta currently, but I've sat on some boards such as Olds College, Campus Alberta Central, Northlands Park, and Calgary Stampede. So I'm very passionate about giving back to the community and making meaningful, positive differences in the community. So I just want to say I'm looking forward to the task at hand. I know that you're all chomping at the bit to get some things happening for the town of Slave Lake. Right now I'm doing more listening than talking in terms of just getting the history and finding out what residents want and what the businesses want for the town. As David mentioned, I'm going to be meeting with a lot of external groups and just finding out what's important and working together in terms of recognizing those opportunities and making them come to be. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I was excited to meet with Leah today. Their orientation here at the town is a very comprehensive and rigorous process. So you usually want to wait till week 2. But we got to sit and chat today. It was very apparent that we've got someone who understands economic development, who's excited to see where it goes and understands the benefit of getting something done versus creating something we can talk about. And was very pleasantly surprised at how much it appears her and David are on the same page. And so I'm really excited to see where they go and where they take it. And I think what's even more interesting is this picture from last week or is this a little longer ago? Because I just noticed that the hair is totally different. So when I went to your office, I was looking for a different person. But luckily you'll be surprised by this group seems to change their hair a lot. So you're going to fit in quite well.
Prevented me from getting a haircut.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. So with that, we will jump into minutes of our previous minute.
Just interrupt. David, can you send us her contact information, please? Thanks.
Perfect. Minutes of our previous meeting on page 7 in our package from August 18th. Any issues, concerns? If not, Councillor Rusk.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes of the August 18th, 2020 meeting as presented.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we'll jump into our CAO update. Mr. Kim.
Thank you, Your Worship, and the members of council. My CAO update starts with the safety today. And I'd like to say that all town of Slave Lake employees are reporting healthy from the COVID-19 as of August 31st. And there were total 3 minor incidents that were reported between August 16th and 29th. Reporting from the finance department, we have issued 4 business licenses this week. Tax due date is August 31st, 2020, and penalties will apply starting on September 1st as tax deferral program ended on the August 31st. We are contacting residents to offer tax payment plans and encouraging residents to sign up for the paperless billing and our new Pay Simply payment option. We have received positive feedback regarding the Pay Simply option. Reporting from the operations department, our road works are ongoing. Those works include the spray patch at Birch Road to Main Street North, road marking on Main Street, which is planned, coming soon, and street signs at Fourier Place, and road sweeping on Main and the collector roads. Our utility crews were also busy working on Wagner Pump Station analyzer repairs, cleaning up of leftover polymer and sulfuric acid from the public works site, and water treatment plant maintenance, old blower house refurbishment and GIS mapping of road assets, new lagoon aerator training, and water main break repair. Reports from the planning department are Municipal Planning Commission approved 2 home-based businesses and storage yard. The department also issued 8 development permits and 2 special event permits, as well as working on refurbishment concept of Rennie Hall Plaza area. Coming from the fire department, there were total 11 calls last week that include 2 structure fire, 4 commercial alarms, and 3 motor vehicle collisions. The department also conducted a variety of training for existing staff, new recruit interview preparation, and fire smart measures, including Burn CCAN project and Thompson Landing alarm system. From the capital projects, the new Lagoon Cell number 1 has been completed and is accepting wastewater. The Lagoon Cell number 3 and 4 are the next step to be operational. Hilltop Reservoir Upgrade Project is progressing as planned. Our road maintenance program is making some progress towards the completion as well, which paved sections on Main Street and near Shutter Park. Reporting from the Community Services Department, school zone patrols have commenced. So please pay extra attention in the zones for your speed. We are continuing to seek approval from the college on our aquatic relaunch program. We are also continuing with weed removal, cutting and trimming in the town's open areas, space. Funded by minor baseball, our contractors have started ball diamond conversion of infills on 2 diamonds at Sinclair Park. Ice installation has begun in the Tervita Arena number 1, and we are preparing for the ice season at MRC with the regular hours starting on September 14th. Users can use change rooms for the arena, provided you self-identified as a cohort group. So if you identified as a member of a cohort group, then you will be able to use the washroom.
Sorry, the washroom or the change room?
Sorry, change room. Yeah, let me correct that one.
Okay.
Sometimes they are together. So, there are a number of events planned for residents in the upcoming season, including a pickleball program, Banff Center Mountain Film Festival, and drive-in movie nights. With this, Your Worship and the Members Council concludes my presentation, and my staff are here to answer any questions.
Okay, questions from council. Councillor Ferguson.
You noted on here that there's working on a proposal for potential project to refresh Rennie Hall Plaza. Is that the same one that's included inside the MSP grant proposed projects?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Councillor Busk.
Just wanted to say thank you to the crews for getting that Main Street section done. That was a pet peeve of mine that was front and center all the time. So nice to see you get paid. Thanks.
Okay, other questions from council? We had a few. Roland would be the best one to answer this, but I'm curious to know percentage wise, taxes, how many people paid up compared to other years? Okay, perfect. Or even just send out something in an email or whatever else. I'm just curious to see if we're on par or see a big dip there. Obviously, that's going to affect us at budget time. Calvin, I got a quick question for you. The on the sewage, oh, Kush is here. He just walked in. On the sewage lagoon there, are we using this? So now that we're pumping into cell 1, right? We're going to work on aeration in 3 and 4. Are we pumping through the Sagger cells, the new gravel filter ones that are built or not?
Yes, we are.
So we should already see a reduction in.
Yes, we are actually since last year it's been operational, so we have been seeing a significant reduction in ammonia and nitrates, especially from the treatment side.
So what's left there besides the aeration on 3 and 4?
Just access road and little bit of earthwork around cell 3 and 4. That's it.
Okay, and are we still having to do the monitoring in the southeast corner there? Where we had some stuff go over the berm? It ended up being, we did some testing and it ended up being nothing, but.
Yes, we will be doing that final testing once we
Okay.
once we are closer to completion.
Okay. Change rooms. So I heard before that we weren't doing change rooms because it was a capacity issue. Now all of a sudden, if we have cohorts, so I understand that cohorts can go into the change room now, which I think is great because any ability that we can give to help make it easier for people to actually use, I think that's we're headed on the right path. That being said, one of the reasons I understood that we weren't doing it was because the time it takes to clean it between different groups would be an issue. But now if they're a cohort group and they identify, which I imagine every group will identify as a cohort group and use those change rooms, are we going to be able to keep up with cleaning and capacity?
Yes, we purchased an electrostatic sprayer, which we've been told the larger change rooms in Edmonton takes 2.5 minutes. To sanitize their change rooms using the electrostatic sprayer, it takes 10 minutes for it to dry. So we can theoretically have that change room sanitized in under 12.5 minutes. Now, which we
Okay.
have access to that information before. The big hinge for us in opening change rooms was the clear definition of cohort. So it was a little bit vague after interpretation when we first received the stage 2 documents.
Okay.
We erred on the side of caution. We've met extensively with different associations, including other government and associations, provinces, and other municipalities, to get a very clear definition as to what cohort can be interpreted and actually means. So our user groups can be interpreted as cohorts, which means they don't have to socially distance. It's still encouraged, but it's not required. Private booking, for example, if you want to rent days for an hour and bring all your kids and your cousins and your friends that you don't see regularly, that is a private booking, and social distance will be required.
Interesting.
They don't have access to changes.
Okay. And to just finish a question on that one then. So if I'm part of this cohort group and it's my regular group and it's part of a regular activity that's ongoing, i.e. groups that are already established, They don't have to socially distance. If they identify as a cohort, they can use a change room. That's what I'm understanding. What about on the bench?
No, they do not have to socially distance on the bench.
Okay. So we just became more functionable.
We sure did.
Okay, that's what all I wanted to know. Sorry, Councillor McGregor and then Councillor Busk.
I should get the right mic on. I don't need a mic. Question, where'd you get this machine and what's the cost of the machine and those kind of things? I had no idea we were buying that stuff.
I don't actually know exactly where Sean sourced it from. I do know gymnastics bought one and it was about $1,000.
Okay.
But the cost, ongoing cost is significant from the sprayer itself. It's the stuff you put in the sprayer. That's the cost. So I know gymnastics and tubes stuff here about $600.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Busk.
Just a question for Calvin here. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a tree go down with that wind, took out a fence on just off of Highway 88 there. Those trees on the town property line, the resident has gotten a hold of me and he's worried that there's a couple tall ones there that if they decide to come down, they're gonna take out his house. I'm wondering what the town is what level of service the town is willing to do if they're going to take those trees down. I would hate to see us have a tree fall on a house like that, especially off of town property. So I'll leave that with you. We can talk offline, but the resident is very concerned after he saw the damage done to his fence. So
Yeah, I'll bring it to Gary's attention. That's, the community service work after the trees, stuff like that, but I'll bring it on to Sean and Gary. You bet.
Okay.
As long as they're living and they're standing, it's their responsibility to fall on the ground and then look after.
Okay. Any other questions from council? As I see none, we'll jump into reports. Okay, so first one, Alex. Service level updates.
Thank you very much. I know you haven't seen some of you for a while, so my hair still looks the same in case you're wondering. Still have this awkward side thing going on.
I would
here.
say it's maybe a half-inch different.
It's a little more gray. So on page 17 of your package, I just wanted to bring the service levels to council to get approved. We're adding in aircraft response. This is something we've always done under the RCMP umbrella. We were going through our SOGs and SOPs and identified that it wasn't one of our service levels. So last year in September, long weekend, we had the event out in Smith with the plane incident. So it is something we respond to. We just want to be able to tighten up the service levels with that level of response in there. And then the other one is changing accidents to collisions under motor vehicle collisions. It's just common terminology across the different agencies. That's the only thing, is just adding that airport response and on
Okay.
the last page of the service levels.
Questions from council? One, does this have any impact on budget?
No, it's something we've already done and we do it under the RCMP umbrella. We just want to identify it to cover ourselves.
Okay, Councillor Busk.
make a motion that council accept this report as information.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay. On another more interesting topic.
So on page 23, we wanted to come and talk today about the, seems like ongoing thefts that have taken place at the fire hall, and I'm sure other businesses as well. We've had 4 recorded events that we're aware of. First one started out as a small tool set. Second one was more of just people on the property. We couldn't identify anything that was actually taken. We started to step up our daily yard checks and things like that after that one. Then there was a light bar off one of our side-by-sides that was taken out of a shed. The shed does not have a door on it. It's more just a covered storage. And then on August 9th, we had a generator, which was actually bolted to a trailer, removed from the yard. Best we can identify is it came through the southeast corner by 6th Avenue Northwest. There's a gap under the fence for drainage. I see the grass was all matted down and things like that. So about a month and a half ago, we started a demo with a security company, a free demo, just so everybody knows. A little bit of misinformation when that was set up. The understanding was that the cameras, we thought were always on, but just the lights came on with motion detection. The actual case was that the cameras only came on with the lights. So we have a great picture of the generator on the trailer. And then 5 hours later, a great picture of the generator not on the trailer. So we know about the time it went missing. RCMP has been involved in every event. We've reached out to the fencing company to get a quote to see what it would cost to put barbed wire on the top of the fence. Cameras, we've identified, a possible ability to upgrade our camera system, add more lighting to the yard. All those things kind of come hand in hand with keeping the honest people out. We found they've come in a couple different places over the fence. They've cut the fence in some areas. So we've bought some used fence, I guess, to try and patch some of those holes. One option that we're looking at, we haven't been able to explore pricing yet, is the old Quonset from the old training center. Calvin's hearing about this for the first time. It was originally the Widewater Fire Hall after the fire in 2011, and then we moved it to the training center off Highway 88. It's sitting there now. It is a locked facility. It does have the ability to be locked. So we're just exploring those options right now on what the cost would be to move them over to the fire hall. And we'll present that report once we have those.
Okay. Questions from council? Councillor Busk.
Yes, you're not alone. The rest of the community feels the pain of the thefts and stuff like this. We've been working for a while trying to set up the COP program to help with the surveillance of these areas and stuff like that. RCMP are just can't be everywhere at once. So hopefully programs like that will help. I know there's a company that is proposing to try and start something up in the community as well. We'll see where that takes us. But yeah, it's never ending the problem with the thefts in this community. There's a lot of business people and residents that are fed up with it. So it'll be interesting to see where all of this goes.
We have a good camera system. We can identify how many people have been in the yard. We just don't have the ability to monitor it all the time. So we can't sit there and watch for when they enter. We actually, they tried to get the generator off a different trailer. So we kind of prepared for that. And this other trailer was brought in during the wildfire season and we kind of left it off to the side. So it was unprotected, I guess is the best way to say it. So you started to utilize the old fire hall for some of our storage for now as a short-term solution, just to keep some of those things that are easily accessible outside of into a lock storage for now.
Okay. Other questions from council? Okay, so the thought is, obviously we get frustrated with this too. It happens to our business community and our industrial community. It happens to us. You guys are looking at some longer term solutions, one of them possibly a building. You're going to bring that up during budget, or?
We have to explore the price and then we'll bring the information.
Okay. If there's nothing else, Councillor McGregor.
I'll make a motion that we accept this report as information.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Okay. Calvin, looks like you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are feeling the same thing Alex is feeling. We had a pickup truck stole on July 5th. The one lonely guy come and walked around the shop, jumped the fence over by the dog pound, grabbed one truck with the keys left in it, and tried to go through a gate that there's no longer approach there. So he ended up in the ditch, pushed the gate over, and then he got out of there and come over and grabbed another truck that had the keys in it and a key fob for the gate. So then they just hit the gate and away he went. And 3 days later, we found it in Wabasca. So we did a few things, some corrective actions. We've created some SOPs, some standard operating procedures. When I went to view the cameras, first of all, they weren't working that well. They had cobwebs on them, stuff like that. So we created an SOP for cleaning the cameras every Friday and created a schedule too. And they're keeping up with that. We also created an SOP for fixing the fence. So that night we went down and fixed it temporary. And then the next day we put up barbed wire around the dog pound where there wasn't any and fixed it all the way around. So the fence is fixed up. And we also created an SOP for leaving keys in the vehicles. So I went over with Public Works, Utilities, and Parks. We had tailgate meetings and went over quite good with them. I'm also looking into getting some better security cameras. I'm getting some quotes for a higher fence around there. Most of the yard is a fairly short fence, so it's pretty easy for them to jump over, throw a blanket over the barbed wire and jump over. So I'm looking at some quotes for getting a higher fence around there. We have a lot of equipment. It's usually left outside and stuff like that. Also looking into some more lighting, better lighting around there. And I do spot checks now, pretty much every second day, third day, checking vehicles. They are leaving them locked and keys are in a locked box in the shop.
Okay.
Yeah, fun.
Okay, questions of council, Councillor Busk.
So the equipment that's in the yard, you do periodic walks through, making sure that, as we see with the fire department, they're targets of opportunity. So if we have anything like generators or anything like that, everything is serialized. We have all those numbers. It's all trackable. Everything is being able to be traced if it is happened to be stolen.
Yep. Yeah, we've got a pretty good list of all our small equipment. All our small equipment is like the generators and the pumps and stuff like that. They're always stored inside in the old shop. In the summertime, our heavy equipment, our graders and our loaders and everything like that, of course, are stored outside. We do have PIN numbers for most of the equipment. All the newer equipment has their own PIN number, so I've issued everybody their own PIN number, and they can't take it with just a key. Most of the equipment, a John Deere key will fit any John Deere around, but with the newer equipment, I think we got 4 of them with PIN numbers. They need the key and they need a PIN number, or just a PIN number, but makes it a little bit more difficult for them to steal.
And now everyone has their own PIN number.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have pictures of our equipment?
Yeah, well, not all of it. We're in the middle of taking pictures and adding to each file.
Okay. Yep. Councillor King.
My concern was not knowing that a vehicle was missing until the next day. So do you guys have a set area where they park? Like you could go in and be like, oh, 102 is missing, this is missing. Even for our riding lawnmowers, if something got stolen tonight, is there a process? Like how many days would it be until we realize it's missing?
Well, with the COVID, since the COVID started, we've issued everybody their own vehicle, their own truck. So if they're on call, they could be taking this truck home, and the next guy's on call could be taking this truck home. So that's the reason we didn't catch that second truck until the next morning. At any given time, if they're out working late, they may take a truck home. So there could be 2 or 3 trucks at home. So
is there no SOP, like a sign out, unit 103, unit 2, like I have such a unit?
They're issued their own vehicle. So like Cody would have his own, Brian would have his own, and when they're on call, they have to take a truck home. So they just take their own, that issued truck home to them.
So there's no tracking whatsoever? Like you don't know what vehicles are on the lot today?
Oh, I have a pretty good idea. Yeah.
But there is no process.
No, we don't have a written procedure for that.
Okay. I'm just wondering if that would have, they would have noticed the truck was missing sooner. I don't know.
We've got GPS on half of the fleet. It was just a money thing that we didn't get the rest of the fleet done. I may look into.
Oh, that was another question I had. The older vehicle had the GPS and the newer vehicle didn't have the GPS.
Yeah, it's just that we didn't have enough money to buy all the GPSs for all the units. So we only had enough money to buy GPSs for half the units. So that'd be something I'd be looking into too, is getting GPSs on the rest of them.
Okay. So I will say, learning experience for the department and the organization. Glad to hear that we're creating mechanisms that hopefully will alleviate some of our issues in the future. I will say that I think we got off lucky here that the vehicle had very little damage and
Yeah, the one vehicle that crashed into the gate just had a little dent on the hood, and the other vehicle, they actually got away with it. Other than 10 pounds of mud on it, there wasn't a scratch on it.
Yeah.
Just a few little, they painted over the town logo and that just rubbed right off and stuff like that, eh, so.
there seems to be two types of criminals out there, the ones that are very organized and strategic, and then the opposite. And luckily in this instance, we had the opposite. So that being said, there was a lot of opportunity for that kind of individual to go get it. And sounds like we're doing our best to eliminate those opportunities. The only thing I would say there, one of the frustrating things for myself on the GPS one as an example, that comes to us in budget in a previous year where we say, hey, we're going to put GPS on all the vehicles and this is what we're moving towards. And we're going to try this stuff out. And then at some point, council didn't decide to cut GPS, administration did, but then we're still paying GPS on some and not. Be interesting at those budget times to have a better discussion about that so we understand as a group that we're either moving forward or moving in a different direction.
Right.
And that's my 2 cents. Councillor Busk.
Last question for you. So all the fobs that open up the gate and stuff like that, those are on the keys in the lockbox? They don't stay in the vehicle?
They stay on their persons now. So everybody's issued a key fob, and they're not to leave it in the shop, in the vehicle or in the shop. They're to take it home with them every night. And I can delete one single fob. They're all numbered. I have issued numbered to everybody, so I can delete them or add them or whatever. But
That's the fob for the gate.
Pardon me?
That's the fob for the gate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We basically made it so that their own personal fob, so that if they do have to come down at nighttime, they can just hit the fob and go in, but they're to take it home and keep it with them.
Okay. Any last questions from council? As I see none, Councillor Brandel.
I will just make a motion that we accept this as information.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Calvin.
Thank you.
MSP.
So good evening, Your Worship and members of council. The purpose of tonight's report is to go over some proposed projects for the MSP grant. So at the top there in the background there, I've just provided the MSP program guidelines right out of the guide. With the big highlighted red note there for under eligible projects, that the MSP funding is limited to projects that would not go forward in the absence of support through the stimulus program. And that is still a little bit open to interpretation, but we did do some brainstorming with each of the departments and ask them for their input on possible projects that they would have that might be eligible for the funding. And the projects we have are listed below under discussion, with the one exception of Lift Station C as also a possible project should council not find any of the following projects desirable. I still believe that would be an eligible project under the program, and it's still under our 5-year capital plan and a plan project that was, we tried to carry out. So starting off with the projects, first project, we have the Fire Hall Water Line Upgrade Project. So this would upgrade the water line at the Fire Hall Station from the current one that they have. That is technically a little too small to fully fill a fire truck in a timely fashion. So talking with Alex, they would love to be able to increase the line size so that they could go to the bathroom and fill up a fire truck at the same time. And also get that fire truck filled up a heck of a lot faster should they need to get out on the road in a timely fashion. The second one, for about $250,000, we could reinstitute the sidewalk replacement program. So much like the other programs that we've ran in the past, this would include spot repairs and missing sections of sidewalks or panels. The third one is the Rennie Hall Plaza redesign. So this one we got from the downtown plan. And part of the some of those actionable items on that plan was the redevelopment of that space. And so we included a possible redesign for about $100,000. The next project we have is the SCADA system upgrade project. So this project would include an update to the outdated SCADA program with upgrades to controller boards, units, communication devices throughout the water treatment plant, lift stations, and our lines and such like that. And the last project there was also pulled from the 5-year capital plan, drainage system upgrade project. Now this had been identified on the plan. And of course, we were waiting for the flood mitigation assessment as well as some other information on how to include drainage ditches and drainage throughout the community. And so those were the projects that we felt were most important that we could complete under the guidelines on time and with the available funding. And with that, is there any questions, comments, and feedback?
Probably a few. Let's get into it. Councillor McGregor.
So tell me what a unit paver is, and please don't tell me it's those little tiny things that go together that grow weeds up in between them.
A unit paver.
Yeah, you're gonna this would include the removal of concrete and grassed areas and replacing those areas with unit pavers in Rennie Hall Plaza.
It is like a paver block.
Oh, God. So that means we're gonna have weeds all over there. Darren's most favorite thing in the whole wide world is weeds on Main Street. Thanks.
Is that a new business or?
Okay, I don't think that was a question. Councillor Ferguson.
So I'd like to say thank you to administration for taking the time and pulling these items together as priorities. Just more of, like to get the feel from the rest of council. So we've had this report, this plan, this downtown plan that we started about 3.5 years ago that we've barely even made a dent in. I'm wondering if there would be any appetite from council to perhaps look at chipping away at a few more of those things. It would help align with our priorities of economic development. So, and I think downtown does need some serious revitalization. So
you're saying instead of some of these on this list?
maybe like where administration, we look at it with administration, say, okay, that might make sense to delay that and throw it towards perhaps downtown revitalization instead.
I'd be all for that.
Okay.
The Rennie Hall Plaza was definitely, the reason I had that one on there, that was definitely on that downtown plan, extremely identifiable as a project we could complete. And of course you could expand on that with, it's just the deliverables that we definitely have to watch because there is timeline constraints where we don't want to start something that we can't finish by the end of the program.
Okay, I have some question, but that'll come back to that. Sorry, Councillor Busk.
I agree with Council Ferguson, but the one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is the little intricate blocks that always seem to heave and people trip over all that stuff. I'd rather see it a hardscape, whether that be cement or something like that, instead of those little paver blocks. That's not a thing that I'm in favor of.
They look nice. They're just not super functionable and they seem to be expensive to maintain. Was that a question? No, that was not a question. That was a statement. Councillor McGregor, thank you very much. Okay, so what I understand is that this kind of can't be stuff that's on our books that it basically won't get done unless we use these funds. So it becomes extremely difficult to use stuff that's within our 10-year plan. So we're kind of looking for things on the fringe.
Not necessarily, because while we've done the best job to identify projects that we want to go ahead, there's nothing to say officially that, without this funding, we couldn't go ahead with it. The town does not have unlimited money to do every single project. But we then identify the ones we want to do the most every
Okay.
year and go about, finishing them. So there's a little bit of, I guess, gray area and interpretation.
Okay, I like gray. That's right in my wheelhouse right there. I'm loving it. Okay. So speaking of gray though, which one of these then are off of our 10-year capital plan?
So the sidewalk replacement program.
Of course.
And then the
Skater?
drainage system upgrade project was on the 5-year capital plan, more of an XX unidentifiable item. I think we had a ballpark figure of about $530,000. But the detail of the drainage, concrete things in that plan are still a little, we'd have to work on that a little bit just to identify certain areas. Because I believe Doug Baird, the last project manager, had kind of gotten that on the go, but we are still waiting for that, the finalized flood study that had.
Yeah, the update that Associated was doing. Okay. Okay, I got some more questions, but Councillor Bus, go ahead.
Wasn't there a realignment of Gloryland Road and Caribou that was having to be done that was a very large number that we were unsure of how to fund? Would that be something that might be able to?
Well, no, so there is an alignment issue, yes, on Caribou Trail and Highway 2 going south into Gloryland. However, the issue would be is that if we ever did development on the southwest corner of that intersection there, which is all bush right now, and then theoretically we looked at some of the proposed additional phases of Gloryland in future years, that before we would get approval there, we would have to work with transportation to get some realignment of that intersection. Largely would probably, be something where it would kind of go out and S-curve back into it. But I don't know if that one, until we see some spark and development or things going on right there, I don't know if there's not a pressure for us to do it at the moment. I would say there. Okay, the SCADA system though too, wasn't that something that the water treatment plant needed and was on the 10-year capital?
It could have been under water. I know we were just developing, fleshing out that 10-year for the actual water treatment thing. I believe I was underneath the reconstruction of the, what do you call it, the building.
Okay.
We were going to look at doing it then, but
Theoretically, it's going to offset some costs in that building. Okay, so these are all gray stuff that I'm starting to love here. Okay. I struggle with the fire hall one, totally makes sense to me. I just struggle with the cost. That's a cost to put a bigger line there from one corner to the next. Because that's all that is. This is all internally within our own property, correct?
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I had Alex kind of source that out and give me a best estimate of what he had.
Okay, I'll leave that one there. So although we have to identify and file for these projects by October, is it?
Yeah, October 1st.
By October 1st, okay. We have to file for it by October 1st and we have to complete the project by next year, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
I believe it's the end of 2021, sorry.
okay.
Yeah,
So
December 31st,
We've got
2021.
room to complete, we just need to do some work to identify. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so the pressure's on to identify, not do the work.
Yeah, as long as we can get the applications in with the caveat being under this program, project amendments are not permitted. So no scope of work changes, no changing back. We are going to do what we say we do right off the bat. And so that's why you also have to kind of pick a project where we're not going to expect any unforeseen circumstances potentially.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is a number of council would love to look at the downtown plan before we 100% committed to this. Is that what I'm hearing? Hearing from 3, 4, the majority, enough that we should. So what my suggestion would be is to keep moving along with this and working on the paperwork for that.
Okay.
But can we bring it to next week's council meeting there, the downtown plan, to have a little bit more in-depth look at that maybe we need to jig some numbers here around? to maybe add to the Rennie Hall Plaza redesign that includes some more pieces of downtown revitalization? Is that feasible?
That is doable as well. If council approves this project, then we can plan to see it first, because this is very minimum we are trying to do. There's some additional hazard as we speak now, because the stairs, concrete stairs that is hidden by the, concrete stairs that are hidden by the vegetation and whatnot, and there are some cloggings by the plant beds here and there. So if you can get going with this, and then we'll bring the even more comprehensive downtown revitalization plan that has been done, and then work with the council to find a different projects as well. So we can do either or. We can approve this as a whole package, and then we can revisit the downtown revitalization plan to add on the one project, or your motion is that we spoke that we can delay it till next week and
Is there any pockets of money within these numbers that we could claw some money back to add to an area? Example, sidewalk replacement program that we could pull back $50,000 and put more into downtown revitalization than sidewalks at this point and accomplish some more. That's all I'm thinking in my head, that we can rejig from some of these things. You know, like the water line is a water line. I probably can't steal $20,000 and say, hey, just do 80% of it, right? So, but there are a couple of them, whether it's sidewalk replacement program and without knowing, but maybe there's an option, the drainage system upgrade project, that we could say, hey, you know what, we'd really like to see incorporated in the downtown Rennie Hall Plaza redesign, also to include the banners, as an example, was one of the things within the downtown revitalization. I'm not saying that's where I'm going, but I'm just saying that we could pull some of those pieces out.
I don't see a problem with that.
So what I would say in principle, that you'd probably get council support for 90% of this, but we would love to take a peek at it next week and maybe rejig a few numbers there and move some numbers around. Is that possible?
Yeah, well, on my end, I have enough time. That's why I wanted to get this out now, just so that there's ample time to make sure we get the right projects and get it all in on time. And there's some.
Would that satisfy council and puts us on the road that we want to go on? Okay. Councillor Busk? Okay. So what I would say is start with the paperwork on this. We'll make a motion to table this to next week. We'll bring the downtown plan, and hopefully Lori's here for that meeting there. We can get into that in a little bit deeper discussion. And so all I can see happening is that some of the numbers in a couple of these things would change, and you might have to add some more definition on number C.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Motion to table this to next meeting. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, so with that, we are nearing the end, aren't we? Yes. Mayor's Corner. What's going on in Mayor's Corner? First off, I will say big congrats to Sean, Julie, and the Tourism Society on the Gord Bamford concert that happened here. Feels like weeks ago already, probably, but wasn't that long ago. So in between our last meetings, definitely had a bunch of the community come out. Big thank you to our own administration and a number of the businesses who helped bring that to life. But just want to say congratulations, you guys. I thought it was great. I went to the earlier one because I wanted to go home and stick my foot up, but it looked like the party was definitely at the second one, so I missed out big time. I'll know for next time. Condolences again to Brian Roche's friends and family. They did the funeral there on Saturday there, and I just thought it was a really nice touch. The helicopters flying over Slave Lake. If you didn't see them, they flew right over town, 3 in a V formation. It was very cool. So over the last couple of weeks too, Councillor McGregor and I, along with Councillor King, have been doing some passionate advocacy for our physicians. Joy's shaking her head. Am I wrong?
No, I'm shaking my head that we have to do it.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, I didn't think I was wrong, but we are making a little bit of headway there, that we're trying to get the two sides on the same page as they work through some contractual stuff. You know, our pitch has been that they are changing the compensation model for physicians within Alberta, which we understand as a government, they have every right to do. What is unique though is there's only 3 family care clinics in the entire province, of which we have one of them, which the other 2 are in Edmonton, Calgary. So ours is very unique and operates very differently. And so we attracted some physicians here based on a model, and now they're changing that model. And the impression is that there will be no change to the end user. So it's great for our community. And that's one of the things we strongly advocate for, is that access to healthcare is what our residents need. And I think we have some pretty good access to healthcare in Slave Lake. And so we want that to continue. And AHS keeps saying that we have nothing to fear there. However, our physicians are quite concerned about what the future looks like for them. And so we've been advocating to AHS to make it a little bit more clear and give them a little bit more time to make some good decisions that not only benefit them, but our community and the service delivery. So I feel like we're making a little bit of progress there to slow the train down and understand what it looks like and who's riding it. So that's been some good discussion. I had a great discussion with the Minister of Economic Development and Tourism. Bird Observatory might not be the #1 priority on council's list, but it is likely the most urgent right now because of the timeliness of them closing that at the end of September. And so I did feel like I was making some headway, and then the world exploded on Monday, and some ministers got shuffled around, and ours isn't even a minister anymore. So that's an issue. That being said, I did have some follow-up conversations with the staff and have an advocacy plan there that might be fruitful, and feel like there is definitely some people working behind the scenes there to help us at least be heard. Whether or not we succeed or not yet remains to be seen. But Joanna and I will work on some stuff for the next day or two and get some letters and things out and set up some phone calls and see if we can keep pushing that one along. Other than that, I'm excited for September. We are, I think more than anything, Albertans are looking for routine, and September usually brings that on. It's a different routine and it's a different level of normal here, and we're all uncertain about how long it's even going to last, but we're going to forge ahead and see what happens. So it's also a time where we start to talk about strategic planning and budget and all these things that happen. Council's reinvigorated from the summer and ready to change the world. And largely our residents come back from their vacation time or whatever else and remind us of all the things that we need to do to change the world. So it'll be interesting to see if that's what this September looks like or it's totally different. So I will say this is likely the busiest summer I think I've ever had when it came to council because of all the things going on behind the scenes. So I'm just excited to move forward. So with Leah here and David's passion with economic development, I know that's where council wants to go. I've literally, created the strongest picture I could about talking about, we're literally like horses with a chomping where there's just drool coming out the side, like we're chomping at the bit to get moving forward. And we're excited. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe I didn't do a very good job on the visual thing, but she came from a 4-H background and we had horses growing up. So that's where I went with that one.
That was so gross, like I thought you might be taking medicine again.
No, I haven't. So with that, that's what's going on in the world of council, and we'll see how normal September looks like. With that, I would entertain a motion to go into camera. Moved by Councilor Brandel. Any discussion? Call the question. Oh, right. There's a guy on my right. Okay. Moved by Councilor Brandel. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Oh, yeah.